Today is Monday, March 28th. What to know about Ukraine's progress in its fight against Russia, even though the war is still far from won. Also, why a U.S. Congressman suddenly resigned. Plus, saying goodbye to a rock legend, a big first at March Madness, and the highlights from the Academy Awards, the speeches, and the onstage punch that everyone's talking about. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, now that the war in Ukraine has entered its second month, a few things have changed. For starters, Ukrainian forces have gone on the offensive, and over the weekend they reclaimed several villages that fell to Russia. Some reports say Russia even lost control of Kherson, which was the first major Ukrainian city the Russian forces captured. But now Russia is consolidating its troops, and Ukrainian officials believe the Russian military may have a new plan. Ukraine's military intelligence chief thinks Russian President Putin has realized he won't be able to take all of Ukraine. So instead, he thinks Putin might try to split the country in two, sort of like North and South Korea. Meanwhile, the death and destruction continues. The United Nations says it can confirm more than 1,100 civilian deaths in Ukraine, but it says the actual death toll is considerably higher. It's just taking a while to confirm each one. Also, as of last week, the Ukrainian government says about $63 billion in infrastructure has been damaged or destroyed. That includes homes, healthcare facilities, airports, schools, and more. So Ukraine's President Zelensky is again asking for more tools to fight back. Just yesterday, he asked NATO for 1% of the alliance's tanks and planes. The U.S. and NATO allies have already sent Ukraine huge packages of military and humanitarian assistance. But Zelensky says to defeat Russia, his forces need more. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators are holding their next face-to-face meetings today. Stay tuned. For the first time, Israel is hosting a summit with diplomats from the U.S. and a few Arab nations. They're reportedly talking about unprecedented formal defense partnerships, what to do about Iran, and more. Remember, the U.S. and other nations have been trying to come up with a new nuclear deal with Iran, basically to try to stop the country from developing a nuclear weapon. Those negotiations are still not finished, but America's top diplomat is expected to fill everyone in about where things stand. Middle Eastern powers are also talking about defense, specifically how to go up against Iran's arsenal if necessary. The summit continues today. An American congressman who's been reelected 8 times is quitting the job even before the midterm elections. Representative Jeff Fortenberry is leaving the U.S. House. He announced his resignation over the weekend, just a couple of days after he was convicted of a felony. A jury found him guilty of lying to the FBI about an illegal campaign donation from a foreign billionaire. Fortenberry now faces up to 15 years in prison for that. He's set to learn his sentence this summer. As for a seat in the House, voters in Fortenberry's home state of Nebraska are going to have to pick his replacement in a special election soon. Tourists are finally allowed back in the U.S. Capitol for the first time in 2 years. Yep, it was March of 2020 when the government cut off public access to what's known as the People's House. Of course, that was because of COVID-19 restrictions. And then there were security concerns because of the riot in January of last year. But now, lawmakers, health officials, and Capitol Police have signed off. So starting today, school groups and other tour groups are allowed inside as long as they've registered beforehand. Tours of the Capitol Dome will start next month. And the Capitol Visitor Center will fully reopen at the end of May. Before COVID-19 swept the nation, an average of 3 million people would visit the U.S. Capitol building every year. Pretty soon, a lot more Americans could be getting a 4th COVID-19 shot. Several news outlets cite sources who say the FDA is about to make a second booster shot available to everyone 50 or older. They could get either the Pfizer or Moderna shots at least 4 months after getting their first booster dose. There are still some questions, though, like how long will immunity from a 4th shot last? And is it really necessary right now, since the vaccines and boosters already on the market have shown to protect most people from the most severe cases of COVID-19? A couple of early studies have shown that, yes, another booster gives people even more protection, while some scientists say they need more data. For now, the FDA only recommends second boosters for people who have compromised immune systems in some way, but that could reportedly change as soon as tomorrow. More news is just ahead, but first, this podcast is sponsored by Rothy's. We all know that feeling of finding something you love, right? Kind of a new obsession. I know I've had that favorite show on Netflix or that go-to restaurant. Well, Rothy's could be your new everyday shoe obsession. They already are for me. And I always appreciate that so many of you listeners have let me know that you too are now loving your new Rothy's shoes. But if you haven't tried them yet, or if you're ready for a new pair, please know they always provide right out of the box comfort and come in so many different amazing styles and colors, from flats to ankle boots and more. Plus, you can wash them. My latest pair of Rothy's is one of their best sellers. It's The Point. Plus, I love that everything Rothy's makes is better for the planet. They've repurposed millions of water bottles into their signature thread that goes into every single one of their products. So step up your shoes and accessories this spring and get ready to be asked, are those Rothy's? Plus, get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/newsworthy. That's ROTHYS, rothys.com/newsworthy. The most talked about moment of this year's Oscars had nothing to do with the movie and seemed to leave the live audience and viewers at home stunned. Actor Will Smith suddenly walked on stage mid-broadcast and smacked presenter and comedian Chris Rock, then cursed at him. Rock had just made a G.I. Jane joke about Will's wife, actress and talk show host Jada Pinkett Smith, referring to her shaved head. Well, Pinkett Smith has struggled openly with a hair loss disorder called alopecia, so the joke apparently did not sit well with her husband. After Will Smith hit Chris Rock and stormed back to his seat, he yelled out at him. The sound was cut on TV in the U.S., but other video and reports show he told Rock to keep his wife's name out of his expletive mouth. Reaction came quick from people in Hollywood. On Twitter, many criticized the use of violence, and some even questioned why Smith was not immediately escorted out. Though some also criticized Rock for making a joke about a medical condition that often takes a toll on mental health, too. Either way, Will Smith himself addressed the incident not long after it happened because he won Best Actor for his role in the movie King Richard. He had tears streaming down his face during the acceptance speech. He apologized to the Academy and his fellow nominees, though he did not mention Chris Rock. He also said, quote, "Love makes you do crazy things." At the end of his speech, Smith cracked somewhat of a joke, saying through tears, "I'm hoping the Academy invites me back." As for Chris Rock, the LA Police Department told Variety the comedian will not be filing a police report against Will Smith. Well, not much can top that drama. The Oscars were full of other history-making moments. The night's top prize went to the movie Coda, which made Apple TV Plus the first streaming platform to ever win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. If you're not familiar, CODA is an acronym that stands for Children of Deaf Adults. The movie stars 3 deaf actors, and for his role in the same movie, Troy Kotsur became the first deaf man to win an Academy Award for acting. He took home the win for supporting actor. Also, Ariana DeBose won the first Oscar for an openly queer woman of color in her supporting role for the musical West Side Story. While we already mentioned Will Smith won Best Actor for King Richard, Jessica Chastain won Best Actress for The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Also noteworthy from the night, Ukrainian-born actress Mila Kunis led the Academy Awards in a moment of silence, paying tribute to those affected by the war in Ukraine. Tributes are pouring in from fans and the music industry because the longtime drummer for the rock band Foo Fighters passed away. Taylor Hawkins, who also drummed for Alanis Morissette, died in his hotel room in Colombia, where the band was scheduled to play on Friday. A day later, Colombia's attorney general said Hawkins had 10 different substances in his system when he died, including opioids, antidepressants, and marijuana. Colombian authorities did not officially rule on his cause of death, but said they're still investigating. Foo Fighters put out a statement saying the band is devastated by Hawkins' death and saying in part, quote, "His musical spirit and infectious laughter will live on with all of us forever." So some new research found evidence of plastic in humans' bloodstreams for the first time. Microplastics, which are tiny microscopic pieces of plastic, come from paints or plastic products that break down. Think water bottles, shopping bags, food packaging, detergent bottles, fabrics, and even lip gloss. They've already been found in water, air, fish, and food. And earlier research found we inhale and ingest some of that plastic. But until now, scientists did not know whether those tiny pieces were actually being absorbed into our bloodstream. Well, in this newly published study, 17 of the 22 healthy adults involved had plastic particles in their blood. The amount of particles found in the donor's blood averaged about 1/1,000,000th of a gram. To put that into perspective, out of 10 full bathtubs, there would be just 1 teaspoon of plastic. And while that's not much, researchers do say there might be different concentrations of plastic in different parts of the body. Also, that there are different kinds of plastic that they didn't test for. And they also want to know what long-lasting impacts, if any, these microplastics might have. So bottom line, more research needs to be done. The men's Final Four is set, and it looks like a competition between some of college basketball's most traditional powerhouses. North Carolina will face Duke, and Villanova will go against Kansas. The first one is highly anticipated since there's a longtime rivalry between Duke and North Carolina that's been going on for almost a century. But they've never gone head-to-head in the NCAA tournament until now. It marks a record 13th Final Four appearance for Duke's head coach, who is calling it quits after this season. The other game is probably going to attract a lot of eyes too, since Kansas is the highest-ranked team left in the tournament and Villanova is a number 2 seed. The winners of the Final Four games will compete for the men's national championship next Monday. But for now, the women have taken over prime time. Their Elite Eight goes through tonight, with their Final Four starting Friday. Then the women's national championship tips off Sunday in Minneapolis. Well, that's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, a message from our sponsor. I'm sure you've heard lots about thread count when it comes to sheets, even if you don't fully get why it matters. Well, Boll & Branch points out it doesn't really matter how many threads you have if they're not the best threads possible in the first place. Boll & Branch uses the best 100% organic cotton threads for a superior softness and better night's sleep. I actually have Boll & Branch sheets on my bed right now, and I am loving them. They are really comfortable, yet breathable, which is important to me. I'm sleeping super well, and I've already noticed them getting even softer with each wash. Plus, I love the look of the color we chose, called Shore. It's a nice light blue. I have the signature hemmed sheets, and they are a bestseller for a reason, with more than 10,000 stellar reviews. Plus, I love that they're 100% free from toxins, so no pesticides or other harsh chemicals. Get 15% off your first set of sheets when you use the promo code NEWSWORTHY at bollandbranch.com. That's Boll & Branch, BOLLANDBRANCH, bollandbranch.com with the promo code NEWSWORTHY. Now back to Money Monday. The cost to buy a home just keeps going up and up and up. The rate for the most common kind of mortgage just surged again. As the Mortgage Daily News reports, the average rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage rose another 5% last week. And that was the second dramatic spike in a week. So a Mortgage Daily News executive says that puts last week on par with the worst one in nearly a decade. And it comes as the all-important spring housing market is getting underway. As we've reported before, house hunters are already facing a low inventory of homes and skyrocketing prices. Now, with rates rising so fast on top of homes costing more, the median mortgage payment is 20% higher than it was 1 year ago. And experts don't think the mortgage rate will go down anytime soon. The chief economist for the National Association of Realtors says he expects it to hover around 4.5% for the rest of the year. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.